four different conversations that you can have when you go out, and any of the conversations can determine how far you'll be able to go with the person, how quickly you'll be disposed or dispersed or let go, or how much you can do together eventually. And it actually, to a large extent, does not matter the gender or the position. The conversation you have eventually will determine how long and how well you are going to be together and be able to help each other. So there are four kinds. So the first one is the conversations that takes. And this comes because a lot of us have the misconception that because you are skilled, you have an offering, and then when you go to meetings, when you go to network, when you go to meet people, you are supposed to take from them. And by take from them, you're like, if I can just meet this person and I do this particular work for them, my life will change, my life will be better. That is true, but that should not be the evident purpose of meeting somebody. So the conversations that take shows that you are looking to be the beneficiary of whatever somebody carries. And so an example can be that, oh, Mr. Jones, we've been looking to meet with you. And then this is the offer that we have. And this is what it will cost you. Many times that is good because all of us want to sell. We have products, we have services, we have everything that we want to sell. And so basically when you look at it, we are the one basically taking eventually. Because to a large extent before that time that person has not known the problem you are mentioning to be his problem. And on one angle it is good that you present it, but for the fact that you're taking from them, it puts a limit to how deeper or how deep your conversation can actually get. Or when you go to an event, you go to a meeting or you're meeting people for the first time. Oh, Mr. Jones, we've been looking to meet with you. Please, I've always been wanting to ask you this question. How did you do this? It looks like you're inquisitive, it looks like you're curious, and it makes sense. But if you look at the trend of that conversation, you notice that you are taken from them. That is, you can be taken from people's knowledge, you can be taken from people's exposure, you can be taken from people's resources, which includes money and time. And in reality, you are not actually offering anything that really adds to them. Because even your product and services that looks like an offering eventually is an exchange for something they already carried. And the only problem to that is that kind of conversation don't go any deep at all. Because this is the tricky part of it. The moment you put yourself in a position where the other person has a dominating position over you, you are thought of as less automatically. And because you're thought of as less, there is a limit to the amount of value being placed on what you can actually offer. So if you go to an event and you're like, oh, Mr. Jones, I like that thing that you said on the stage. Please, sir, can you expand on this? Because I and my team, we have been looking to do this. The person will see you in two basic ways. Either you are their next target customer client, or you are just another person who doesn't know as much as they do. And because they see you as somebody who doesn't know as much as they do, you are valued to worth less as they are worth. And that automatically puts you in a position where there is a limit to what discussion you can have with them. At that point, it means that you cannot even discuss value. If you're into water resources like me and they're into real estate, if I come across that way, it means I cannot even discuss with them a proposal for a central water system for their real estate project, for their building, for a community that they are building. I cannot even suggest to them that we are the best water company to handle their water project. We cannot even discuss how water even affects their own project, right? So that's what happens to conversations that take. Because on the immediate, you look like the person that is gaining at the moment, but on the long run, you'll be losing the most. Because they are like the basic things, the basic side of life, both business and everything. And you can look at some of your friends who only come to you when they need your help. You see that sometimes it's easier to ignore their call. Sometimes it's easier for you to determine when you respond to their text, because you know after that, hey, big man, now billing they come. That means that person has not shown himself to be valuable enough to be relevant in what you are doing. And as a result, you have to weigh your options. Okay, so I have to chip this in now, even though it's not supposed to be part of this. For every priority you make, there is an opportunity cost. And I'll leave it at that. Go and expand on it. So that's the disadvantage of the conversation that take. On the immediate, you look like the person benefiting, getting something, gaining something, but in the long run, you are losing the most. All right, the second ones, these are the conversations that give. You're the one sharing, you're the one giving out. That these people can come to you, I need this. You can tell them, oh, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to be this. Let me help you with this, let's do that, let's do this. That is good. You are humanitarian, you are a philanthropist, you are generous, whatever name you want to call it, yeah? And that is cool. But the only problem with that is it drains you. And it also blinds you from seeing who is meant to actually be of value to you. And that's not where you really want to be, because as overflowing as you may be, as generous as you may be, as resourceful as you may be, there is need that you also have those people in place who constantly carry value, who's even from their jokes, from their play, you can derive something meaningful. You are always having a conversation that gives. You also want to put a check on yourself that it shouldn't just be you giving out every time. Yeah. So if the conversation that you are having, or the people you have around you, the conversation is always giving, it's only a matter of time before you become drained. And what it does to you is it makes you feel like you are less appreciated, which should not be. Automatically and unconsciously, because something is coming back to you one way or another. And that's why you don't want to base your relationship with people based on those first two sets of conversation. Why those two are actually inevitable, I mean, you're going to have conversations that will take from you. You're going to have the conversation where you are the one giving out. But it mustn't consistently be. And now the interesting part is, it can actually be in cadence, where you have places you receive from and then you have places you give to. But to a large extent, the flow is supposed to be two-way flow, not necessarily in cadence. But that's the first two sets of conversation you can have. So the other two, so the third one is the conversations that build. And when you go to events, you say you network, you do professional engagement. Most of the times, these are the kind of conversations we really want to have. They are conversations that are both the first two, and they make sense, but they are still not the best. So I'm talking to you now. Every time, the only thing we can talk about is how well you can model a house I want to live in, how much I have to pay for it, what course you have to take later, and then you are telling me the best engineer for me to consult and stuff like that. If we really can't do beyond that, it will be fine, it will be good, but there's no way we're able to maximize the benefits in that relationship if all we do is relationship that builds. The conversations that build, most of the time you are there, you kind of see yourself on the same level, and you can talk for hours on the things that are right or wrong, the things you're supposed to be doing, the ethics of your work, how you can become better, how you can improve. That is good. It gives everybody boost. You can become better what you want to become, because you're helping each other, like what the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. That's to tell you that I carry some value, you carry some value, we bring it together, and that way we are able to help each other grow. And that is cool. That is fine. That means you have a two-way conversation. You have the give and take conversation, a two-way flow. And that help each other become whatever they want to become. But the interesting part is this, which is the last level of conversation. The conversations that humanize. This is the conversation where if you're able to secure this with anybody, of course your entry point can be it can be give, it can be take, it can be build, But if you can make it to conversation that humanize, then any of the other four that you really want to do, you can have access to. In fact, the things that the person cannot do for you, that the person is in charge of, or that the person have access to, they all can be yours if you can get to a point where you have conversation that humanize with the person. That is, you come to a point close enough where you can ask them what movie they enjoy. You can take them to dinner or to lunch. You can take them to movies. I discovered that even the busiest people in life, they still have time for those things. So the question is, who are the people that they have that time for? I've also seen that some of these people, apart from having time for these things, there are some level of transaction that you cannot do with people at the level of give, take, or build alone. You have to humanize, you have to have conversation that humanize in a way that shows how much you even care about their family, their business, the things that seem to be trivial, but really means a lot to them. So, these are the four kinds of conversation that we are supposed to have or that we can have. Alright, so those are the four kinds of conversation you can have. And when you go to meetings, to conferences, and you relate with people, it always makes sense that you are always as much as possible, if you can come from the angle that builds, or for whatever it is, yes, depending on who you are relating with, if you can come from the angle that builds, it becomes easier for you to get to the conversation that humanize than when you come from the angle that takes. Because if you are the one taking, you are positioning yourself to be a little lower than the person. And so, if that is the case, there is a pedestal upon which they put you, and once they put you there, it will take you some extra work for you to prove your worth, to go beyond that level. And you don't want to shortchange yourself before you even begin, right? So, yeah, that's basically that. And when you have conversation that humanize, not only are you able to build with the person, but you can also take and also give to the person. That's a wholesome conversation that actually put people in a position where they believe that beyond anything you can gain or do for them, you also have their best interest at heart. And that's like the peak of any conversation you can have with anybody. And that allows you to get people outside of their logic. And for everybody at building level, you are relating with them with their logic. So you can say something, they can reason it and look at it and say, that's not exactly wrong. That's not exactly right. That's not something I want to do. But when you bring them to where their emotions is involved. Okay, so when you do conversation that humanize, it helps you to take people outside of their logic to their real being, which is where the emotion is. That is when you take them to where they feel, not where they think. Then you have taken them to the access point to everything that they have. And so if they feel good about you, every other thing you say, either logical or not, either reasonable or not, we have very little consequence. And you can have access to every other thing. So you can look at these four conversations and look at your relationship with people and see, where am I with this person? And with what I really want to do with this person, will I be able to attain what I want with this level of conversation or relationship that we're having at the moment? If not, upgrade. And also, it's important that you also know where to keep people. So, if you look at them, this is not overlooking somebody or undervaluing somebody. But when you look at them based on who they are, what they carry, you can determine, all I want to do is just give to this person. Right? Let him just ask for any information, anything he asks. When I have it, I give it to him. Nothing more than that. This person, well, I don't really bad in style, but he seems to have some knowledge. Okay, I can take from him. There are some like that. But you always have to know when which is right for who. And lastly, on the build, for everyone that you actually comfortable to build with. If your priorities are right, if your ethics are right, if your virtues are right, if your morals are correct, most of the time for everyone that you are able to build with, they are supposed to be able to come to a level where you can humanize with them. Because if you are building with somebody that you cannot actually invite for dinner or take to dinner, either a man or woman, then something somewhere is not exactly right. That does not mean everybody you build with you want to humanize with. But then, those are just the conversations and it helps us in navigating life and dealing with people. I hope that's been helpful for somebody.